Hey everyone, good morning. This video is going to be a compilation of some footage I shot on my breaks working at Amazon. I hope you enjoy it. It's kind of eclectic. This is actually something I found in the van. A letter to whom it may concern. This letter is evidence that the carrier of this letter is an employer of a supplier that provides vital services for Amazon, an essential business. This individual is providing essential work to support Amazon's delivery of critical supplies directly to the doorsteps of people who need them, and allowing members of the community to remain at home and reduce the risk of COVID-19 exposure and transmission, including the elderly and vulnerable persons. If you want to verify that the carrier of this letter is providing the essential services referenced above, please call the Amazon Logistics team at, sincerely, the Amazon Logistics team. I don't know. I feel like it should be documented for posterity, because I don't know if there exists a single digital copy of this, except on the Microsoft Word file that it was printed from. So our grandkids can know what 2020 was like. I just wanted to read that out on this YouTube channel. I hope that gave you a little nostalgia trip for the COVID times. Wait. Enjoy the video.
All right, hey y'all. The Wawa Gobbler is back. The Wawa Gobbler. Okay, I've heard about the Gobbler. Never had the Gobbler, but since working at Amazon, I've actually been a bit of a Wawa guy. Oh my god. Look at this shit. I'm not gonna get a close up because you probably think it was gross. It looks kind of gross, to be honest. It's wet sandwich, but I like wet sandwiches, to be honest. I got the one with stuffing. Okay. Yeah. Okay. My biggest complaint is that it's just not good. And I don't want that to... That's not a disparagement. It's just Wawa. You know, like, they're not making turkey like your grandma. Like, I know pretty much everything on this came from a can or a plastic bag from out of state. But that turkey is good. The cranberry sauce is bitter, but that's neat. Yeah. So I don't mind a wet sandwich, but when it's sloppy like this, like it's kind of falling apart, it just feels like a waste, and it makes me panic while I'm eating it. Hey, what's up? I'm on my lunch break. Nazi regime before the war, but after they gained power, so the peace years. It's the time that most Nazis are kind of nostalgic for. Like, after the war, after the regime fell, you talk to people, they'd be like, yeah, it was actually great during the peacetime. Like, that's why we all went with it. That was kind of the justification, is that things got better when the Nazis took over. So immediately violence started against all kinds of people, but I don't want to talk about that. Read the book if you're interested in Nazis. I'm not, by saying that they're nostalgic for this time, I'm not trying to apologize for the Nazis. I don't apologize for the Nazis. They fucking sucked. But I am more interested in what I'm learning kind of in this chapter. He's talking about the, like, I guess the social services that the Nazis provided and like how they used them to coordinate the labor force. So we'll come back to that second point, but first I want to describe this thing. They called it the Strength Through Joy program, which was basically the Nazis provided subsidized or inexpensive like vacations abroad to people, and it was at the price point, like you'd go on a cruise or something. It was at a price point that a worker could afford. So they had like cruises, and they were saying like, yo, these cruises got freaky. Like there were like young women, single women would just go on the cruises and like, you know, have lots of sex on this boat. And I'm like, that sounds fucking awesome. God, I wish I was a woman. Cut that. What he said was, at its peak, it was never more than 11% of hotel stays were paid for by the government. Which, still, I mean, it's kind of a novel idea. The government pays for your vacation. It's kind of what we would call progressive. But I want to talk about what it reminds me of, okay? Because this is where we get kind of into that second point of how they coordinated the workforce. What it reminds me of is company towns. You know, the Hershey's company town, the early company towns in America, based on paternalism, which is a similar ideology to nationalism, or I'm sorry, paternalism is, I should explain what it is. Paternalism is like, there's one guy in charge and he provides for the people and the people do work for him. And that's the idea behind the early company towns. And still, I'd say all company towns presuppose kind of paternalism. Anyways, in company towns, they provide like swimming pools and recreational facilities. Basically, the workers who live in the towns, they're allowed to take part in this recreation that most people don't get. Like, it's a perk that most people don't get. You should watch Knowing Better's video on company towns. Before you read the book, I'm reading. Watch Knowing Better's video on company towns. You'll get a much better understanding of what I'm talking about. But, I mean, we know that company towns are not, like, they're not good. They're bad for the people who work there. They're designed to take advantage of the people who work in the company town. And what I'm saying is, the Nazi regime was designed the same way. It was basically turned the entire nation into a company town. So I had that thought. When I was hearing about this recreation scheme that the Nazis had, it was reminding me of company towns, and I thought, wow, so Nazism is like national company towns. That is the connection. That's why Marxists say that fascism is the endpoint of capitalism. I would be more specific and say Nazism is one of the endpoints of capitalism, because under Nazism, you still have your capitalist enterprises, but the workers are coordinated by the government to basically keep going to work, and you want to try to keep them going to work and keep them like happy and not obviously rebelling. Yeah, no, Nazism is a company town. Company towns are one of the things that happen when you have capitalism, and so Nazism is one of those things that can happen when capitalism goes too far. That's something that I agree with the Marxists on. Here's another thing. A lot of people in America are afraid of socialism, in quotes. The thing they're afraid of is really national socialism. This idea that the government will like put you in a job, they'll put you in a home, the government basically wipes your ass in exchange you do what they tell you. And yeah, I mean, it's not good. I don't think, even without the hate, because when I want to think about Nazis, I think about it in two parts. There's the fascism, and then there's the Nazism. And the Nazism is just like the way that the government and economy were structured without all the hate. And then there's the fascism, which obviously requires hate to perpetuate itself. Without hate, I still don't think Nazism is a good philosophy of government, because, because you still have to subjugate people. You still have to basically force people to work. They didn't increase taxes, but what they did was they sent people around to basically collect donations for like local shit, like parks, parades, all that stuff that the Nazis would do to keep people entertained. They forced the people to pay for it. So they would go around, and if you didn't pay, they'd call you a Jew. You might get sent to a concentration camp. Like, all the horrible shit that would happen if you didn't give up your money. So you ended up, what they would do is try to capture all of your currency and try to, other than that, provide you with the necessities you need to live. So it is a lot like a company town where the goal is make sure you take home almost no money extra, and then the government just kind of takes care of you, and you have no freedom. And that is what everybody is afraid of. That's why we're afraid of socialism. And I just felt like that was worth sharing with y'all. The similarity between socialism and National Socialism is that they both seek to describe society and coordinate society in terms of who is doing the labor. The difference in socialism and National Socialism is that where National Socialism takes rights away from the worker and exchanges them with like social services and takes all the taxes that it wants, socialism aims to increase the power of the workers. And yeah, possibly increasing taxes, but the idea is that if workers have more power, they'll be able to demand higher wages to compensate for the taxes. Socialism is ideally a lot more fair than the conception that we have of socialism, where like nobody works, nobody, it's that no matter what, in any society, you have to have a lot of people who show up to work 5 days a week. 3 to 5 days a week. I mean, modern day, we're talking 3 days a week. You have to have a group of people, a class of people who has to work 3 days a week. Back in the day, it was closer to 5. It was even 6 or 7. Like, you needed your society to do that. And obviously, the Nazis wasted a lot of resources on war. The Nazis wasted a bunch of shit. I don't know. I thought it'd be nice to share my thoughts.
Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for keeping me company. I really, really appreciate it. I'm going a little stir crazy on this particular day. So, I guess I want to share something a little bit personal. I usually do this yearly kind of reunion with my friends, like a party. It's called Huey Fest. Don't worry about it. Yeah, and just what happens every year is I get a lot of stress before the party, and then during the party is like this blissful time. I didn't record any of it, and then it's like, it's over. It's gone. See you next year. And I'm left with this feeling of like intense loneliness. This is the 4th year I've done it, and it's been exactly like that. Stress, then bliss, then complete loneliness. So, even though it was 4 or 5 days ago, and this year is interesting. It was the least amount of stress I've felt beforehand, but it's also been kind of, I'd say the most intense loneliness I felt afterwards. And I kind of want to talk through that feeling, because I don't really have like depression, I guess, anymore, but times where I was struggling with depression, suicidal thoughts, and that kind of thing, it felt just like this, like just like lonely. Like there was no one or nothing that could even like hear me. I mean, I guess if you felt it, then you know what I'm talking about, and if you haven't, then you know you don't know what I'm talking about. I just kind of wanted to talk through that kind of emotion, because boy, does it suck. And what's interesting is after I get hit by a wave, it always ends with me, saying like, hey, it's gonna be okay. Like, for me, I know this loneliness is coming from just the fact that I had an awesome time seeing all my friends, and like, it's just, I don't get to see them all the time, and I don't get to see all of them all the time, and so that's just like, obviously a high is going to be followed by a low, and that's all this is. And what I was saying is, this year I've had probably the least amount of stress beforehand and the most amount of like just loneliness afterwards, because I don't know why. The crazy thing is, I don't know why. I don't know why I'm just so terribly lonely, and in some ways it feels good, and in some ways it's like the worst kind of thing that you could ever feel. You know what I mean? It's like, so I don't know. Luckily, this clip is going into one of my schizo videos, so I don't need to have a point. The other thing is a predictive history episode came out. Today is October 21st. Yeah. Secret History, episode 11. Dawn of the Human Imagination. And that's interesting. He talked about just the way that kind of proto-humans were like more empathetic, more intelligent in certain ways, and it kind of aligned with something I heard in another video. I can't exactly remember what it was, but it was basically the idea that all of human society is a result of the playing of games, and the way that he defined games was very broad. It was like it has roles, and there's like a turn order that's understood, and each role has a certain responsibility on their turn, and so you could kind of extrapolate that to obviously like all of society is like, I play the game of coming to work and I work at Amazon. You know, you play the game of doing whatever you do, and like each of us, we play different games every single day, and we just like, I don't know, kind of like how I mentioned in the beginning of the monetary socialism video about how money is an illusion. Like, money is very much a part of the game, and it's like, if you stop playing the game, you're just gonna fucking die, you know. So you have to just understand how fucking absurd it is that we are all on this earth going about our daily chores, and meanwhile life goes by, you know. Jesus Christ, this is so deep. I'm not acting like I'm saying anything groundbreaking. I'm trying to tell you all how I feel, not teach you guys something. It's just the other thing I was thinking of is how again, synthesizing those two ideas together, the idea that we were like more emotional and like intelligent before we had written language or language in general, and you know, they took care of people. Like, there's the human with dwarfism who was buried like with ceremonial honors that they uncovered. He showed that, and he explained how like this is how we know that they live their lives with love, like yada yada yada, and I just think about how there are some people I know, and you don't see this very often because as adults we don't play games, but I think back as a kid playing like tag or whatever, some people I know who are good friends, and then you're playing tag and they're out to get you. Well, yeah, nobody wants to lose, but I do feel like in society we have that same rule where like, I think there's a lot of people who, if you told them, would you just sell out your friends, sell out your family, and in exchange, you know, you get to win the game, you get to be a billionaire, you get to have your money and have your happiness and forget about everything. You know, how many people think that winning the game is more important than the people in their life? And the answer is, I think, shockingly way more than I want to believe. I don't know, and I think that's kind of what is lending to my loneliness, is I see all these people once a year, and it's like, are they even really friends? Or are they just here to see how I'm playing the game? I don't know, it's just hard to trust people, I guess. So, but it's hard for me to even trust myself, so I don't know, and this is new because I've always been a very trustworthy person. I'm just scared. I'm genuinely really scared of the future. I don't know how. But if you close your eyes, does it almost feel like nothing's changed at all? And if you close your eyes.
Okay. So, for anyone wondering why this is in the video about with all my Amazon breaks, I'm on my way into Amazon. I've got the shirt on underneath my other shirts. So, this counts. I want to talk about why we're in a recession, or why we're entering a recession. I want to make it clear that we are actually in a recession. It's a third of states, or 2/3 of states, I can't remember which, in the US have had negative GDP growth for 2 quarters. So we've got a third or 2/3 of our states are officially in recession. The US economy as a whole is still growing, technically. It's not like this is an avoidable thing. It's like it's already happening. Why are we primed for a recession? Oh, Jesus Christ. Why are we primed for a recession? Well, first of all, wages have been dropping since 1971. Wages have been dropping, and if you ask me, wages are the backbone of a growing economy. Inflation is the thing that lowers wages, right? Anyways, the other thing, there's a massive amount of debt. I believe it's more debt in the United States system, like all throughout everything, than has ever been in the system before.
Not at Amazon, obviously. I've got 2 graphs. This is the total public debt, and this one is the total public debt as a percentage of GDP. Oh, they're only from 1960 onwards. Sorry about that. You could probably find better information further back, but the point is that we have more debt than we ever have had before.
The reason for the Great Depression was due in large part because of debt leveraged against assets. Or maybe it's the other way around, assets leveraged against debt. An economy full of debt is like a powder keg. It's not stable, okay? It may look stable. You might slowly add more and more debt and make more and more profits from that. But at some point, you're not going to be able to keep up with it, okay? The reason for that is because debt actually causes inflation, right? When you have debt, you have a future dollar and a present dollar. They're the same dollar, but they can both be spent at the same time, okay? What you see there is, if you go and get debt, like say you get a loan, then you have a dollar in the present, and the bank has your debt, and they can use your debt to buy stuff, trade, and all that. So your debt isn't just something that you owe back to the bank, it's something that your bank owes to other people, and all around, and it's very like interconnected web of, it's not you owe the bank this shit, it's the bank is playing with all your debt. Your debt is the bank's main bargaining chip for for investing in the economy. And as we've seen, the economy is growing insane. And by the economy is growing, what I mean by that is stock prices are going up. S&P 500 cap referenced against spending power of GDP or some shit. I don't fully understand it, but it's the highest it's ever been.
Hey guys, jumping in from the future again here. I want to get this detail right since I'm going to end up showing the graph anyways. You can see it's Wilshire 5000, which isn't the S&P 500, but it's similar. It's a big index fund. Basically, the higher that number goes, the more you can easily tell that there's something fishy going on. And if it's concentrated in one sector, like the AI sector, then it's an indicator of a bubble. I'm not going to say it's definitely going to crash because nobody knows the future, but I mean, we can look at history, we can look at this graph and say that this is a very risky market.
And of course, a recession always happens after it gets high, it drops low. A lot of the debt in the economy is being used to finance investments in the stock market, and the stock market is right now, we're riding a major bubble. That bubble's got to burst at some point, and at that point, you get bankers demanding payment for their debt, and you get people who can't afford to pay, and so the bank starts repossessing houses. That's what happened in 2008. This chain of events where the debt gets stacked on top of each other, and then once it all collapses, you get massive deflation. I'm kind of skeptical over whether we will get deflation. Yeah, so those are the three big ones, and then there's a four kind of non sequitur. So let me go over them again. Declining real wages over the past 50 or so years. The most debt the economy has ever seen at one point, and the largest stock market bubble that has ever existed. I'm not here to debate if it's a bubble. Jeff Bezos called the AI thing a bubble, and it's more than just AI. It's the whole economy. This is just what happens when you leverage debt, assets, and debt and assets. It's like you're literally inflating, like you're stacking investments all around each other, and it's not one guy or a group of people doing this. It's these guys make these transactions, these guys make these transactions, these guys make these transactions. It builds upon each other, and it creates a feedback loop, and as rational actors, none of them want to stop. They're going to keep doing what they're doing because to them, the market seems rational. And they're going to keep building it up until inevitably the bubble pops. But yeah, so the fourth thing is the price of oil. And this is another of the major levers. It's in 1971 when wages started dropping, and it's because we left the gold standard. We actually moved on to a new commodity-backed currency, the petroleum dollar. Google what is the petroleum dollar if you want to start learning about how the world works. Basically, we force petroleum exporting nations to buy and sell petroleum using the United States dollar, and that gives the United States dollar strength because it's being referenced constantly against one of the most valuable resources in the world. And the petroleum companies, they are a cartel, so they make oil scarce to increase their profits. When oil is scarce, the price of oil goes up naturally, which means the buying power of the dollar goes up.
I didn't realize how sidetracked I got talking about oil. The remainder of that clip is like, it's like fucking 45 goddamn minutes. I'm not gonna make you sit through all of that shit. So sorry if you were invested in what I was just talking about. I'm just not gonna post that shit online. So much of just like, and I know that's what I do here all the time, but it was, shut the fuck up, dude. Shut up.
The other thing I wanted to say in this shot, I think every police car should have one of those fucking things in it. One of those little fucking cameras. Okay? And I know police cars have dash cams, right? But I'm saying, listen, that thing, if you drive too fast, it'll say, please slow down. And it sends a message to Amazon dispatch. You get enough of those, you get suspended. So for me, I think police officers need that. And like, if you speed as a police officer more than like 2 miles per hour, you just get a speeding ticket. Okay? Hear me out. If you're on the fence, hear me out. Police will never, on duty, get a speeding ticket. I don't have the numbers on this, but I think it's pretty fair to say a cop is not going to pull over a cop and give them a speeding ticket. That being said, I've seen a shit ton of cops speeding way too fast, like dangerously driving. And I think that shit needs to be fucking
figured out. Now, what you're saying is, though, the other skepticism is like, well, what if the cop is in a high-speed chase? Wouldn't it be fucking stupid if they got a speeding ticket? And you're right. I agree. It would be fucking stupid if they got a speeding ticket. So there should be a button that says, like, I'm gonna go fight crime. And that, they press the button, and they have their extra legal permissions, right? When they press that button, they're allowed to speed. But it also, you know, it sends a signal that's like, this is when the police officer decided that they were going to do law keeping. It would make it so that in like any kind of criminal case where there's a police officer doing wrongdoing, or a police officer not doing wrongdoing but being accused of wrongdoing, you could see into kind of the police officer's mindset, like when they decided they needed to go extra legal. In that way, we would just have a lot more like consistency, I guess, in policing. I know they have dash cams. The big thing that really pisses me off as a white guy who doesn't get harassed by cops, well, and I've been pulled over, and I hate it. I hate being pulled over for speeding. The big thing that bothers me about police officers is when they break the law. Specifically, especially when they're speeding. It makes me so fucking mad. Because if I was speeding 10 miles per hour over the speed limit and there was a cop, first of all, my heart rate goes like crazy. Second of all, I might get pulled over. I might get fined. I might, you know. But the cop can just do whatever they want. They're just allowed to break the law. And that is wrong. But it's how our Constitution works. Did you know that police officers make laws? It's pretty interesting how it works.
Hey y'all, I'm about to say some radical shit. It's going to sound like anti-cop, defund the police, woke liberal propaganda. I recommend reading this scholarly article. Even if you don't believe it or don't want to believe it or anything, you don't have to come away from the article believing that it is true that police are racist, but you will come away from the article with an understanding of some of the issues that we should all have with our policing system. Now, in the remainder of this video, I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to jibber jabber about it. Read the fucking article if you want to know like what actually intelligent people are saying, or just listen to me if you want to know what I can remember about this article I read.
So basically, how our legal system works is we have a law, right? Then we have the executive branch, which is supposed to execute that law. Police officers are in the executive branch, right? Now, if a police officer chooses to break a law, the only recourse is for the person to sue them after the fact. Now, that person sues the cop. Here's what happens. The court sides with the officer. More often than you'd think. So we have this Fourth Amendment, right, in the Constitution. It says basically nobody is allowed to stop you, search your person or your personal property, because your person and your personal property are more important than any kind of like law. Like if you were breaking the law, it would be obvious that you're hurting people. So nobody's gonna search you without your consent. That's the Fourth Amendment. And it's true. It's true. If I'm breaking the law, right? If I've got drugs on me, it doesn't fucking matter, because I'm gonna do drugs and that's gonna only affect me. So it's not really like somebody should stop me, pat me down, find drugs, and I go to jail. That's way worse than me doing drugs. Like, going to jail would be way worse than me snorting a line of coke. And yet, they made drugs illegal. Police start searching people, patting them down, finding drugs on them, in some cases even planting drugs on them, or opening up their trunk and searching their trunk and finding drugs. Again, sometimes there's like the intent to sell. I'm not gonna be your like, I'm not gonna tell you if drugs should be legal or not. I am gonna tell you it is wrong to search somebody without their consent. It is wrong to search somebody's property without their consent. And yet police officers were doing it. And one time, somebody was like, that's wrong, it goes against the Fourth Amendment, I'm going to sue you. He sued the police officers, and now, rather than police officers being reminded that it goes against the Constitution and everything that this country stands for, instead, actually, police are just allowed to do it now. It's called stop and frisk, and it's a part of their training. Because the court sided with the cop and not the defendant. Or the court sided with the plaintiff, not the defendant. Because the defendant is the cop. Because this is what happened. Somebody was wronged by a police officer, so they sued the police officer, and the court agreed with the police officer. So the law changed. In fact, there's new law that counteracts the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution, and it happened because a cop broke the law and was retroactively permitted to. And now cops are just allowed to do that to this day. Search your person in violation of the Fourth Amendment. It's wrong. It violates the Constitution. It's not good. It's bad. And yet, police officers can create laws.
All right. Hey, y'all. Just wanted to say thank you for watching. Thanks for, honestly, just thanks for tuning into this one. I know it's kind of eclectic. I honestly still get like 0 views on all my videos, so I don't really know what anybody expects from me. I was just bored. I wanted to film my breaks at work. I wanted to just, talk about some shit at that time. So, kind of eclectic video. I want my videos to be more centered around a topic, going forwards. And I think if you watch, you can kind of tell that that's what I'm working towards. But it just felt good to like post a bunch of footage, like I did for my first couple videos. Oh yeah, so thanks for watching. Love you guys. See you in the next video. Bye.